Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Travels Lockdown Sessions, presented to you, as always, by our good friends at True Heel Heat Wrestling Podcast over in New York City, SP3, Top Guy JJ, and the lovely Miss Chrissy, always covering great wrestling. We're also brought to you by Stu's Wrestling Podcast over in the UK. I got to give some love to Stu. I want to give some love to the Wrestling Trader, Wrestle Merch Central, Powered Forward TV, so many things. But what I want to give thanks for is Chase Holliday joining us on today's program. Chase, welcome to the show.
Hey, Justin, thank you guys for having me. I'm real excited for this. I'm always excited to do interviews. Like I don't know, you guys are stuck with one of the guys who just likes to run his mouth a decent amount. So.
You know what? You know what's awesome about that is people that do watch these regularly, they always appreciate somebody else running their mouth besides me. So it's like a match made in heaven. And
Let's do it then.
I love it. And usually that makes for an easy interview. I ask like 3 questions and we go 3 hours and we're good. So
yeah, I always the ones I've been doing recently, I'm like, how long are we going? So I know like what I can mentally cut myself if I start going too long on something.
I always say this every interview. Poor Nikita Koloff agreed to do an interview with me. And the little kid in me that used to watch Nikita in the magazines and stuff, I was like, man. And I just started asking him questions, and the poor guy went like an hour 10, hour 20. But we had fun. I mean, usually, I always say, Chase, that I want to go 20 minutes because I feel like 20 minutes is solid. Somebody's going to watch an entire 20-minute interview. And then what happens is, I've got a love and passion for pro wrestling, and everybody that interview does. You know, if we click, we just start going. My shortest interviews have been with, like Al Snow was a guy I did a short interview with because I was shitting my pants. Because, only because every time I see an Al Snow interview, like he's so cerebral. He just kind of gets everything, and I'm like, man. I just don't want to look like a moron in front of a guy who just gets it. So,
Right.
Well, let's jump right in. How long have you been wrestling? How long have you been in the business?
This year was my 3 years that I've been in the business. Yeah, I started in 2017. I started 2 weeks after I finished training. So, like at Black and Brave, we only trained for about 3 months, which because that was my first wrestling school, the only wrestling school I've been to, I thought that was like normal. And then I got into wrestling. People were like, yeah, no, I've been training for like 1 or 2 years. And I was like, for years? Like, you guys don't like do stuff in months? And they were like, no. And so that blew my mind. And then like literally, I remember because it was, I graduate, like we had our graduation night, like we had the last day, and which was like on a Thursday. And that Friday, some other graduates were going to a show. Like they were like they were coming up, I was living in Illinois at the time, so I think they were coming up to Iowa, or they were coming up to Indy from Iowa, and I think they also had like, we're going to New York or something like that. But me and my roommates were like, oh, we can't go to like New York or whatever, but one of my roommates was like, oh, I'll go to Indy. And so he technically started the week before me. He's like, yeah, man, you got to come down, whatever. They run like every Friday. So then a week later is when I went up. On the following Friday, so I graduated within 3 months, and then 2 weeks later I was in the ring. So
that's crazy for an old guy like me too, because it was so much. I remember going through camp, and after being there for a few months, I'm like, and I was in much better shape back then. You got to remember, but I'm like, I want to throw a drop kick, and they're like, no. We're still doing basics, top wrist locks and hammer locks and all this stuff.
We covered like a lot in that 3 months. Like we covered everything that we needed to cover, and it was like, I know it was so. I guess looking at it, you can say it was fast paced, especially considering how long people train now. But it's like it didn't feel like that. But we also only had 6 students in our class. Like we started with what was supposed to be like 12. And I think maybe like 10 showed up on first day. And after first week, we had 6. And we were like, all right, cool. So they were like, yeah, this is probably one of the fastest moving classes we've had yet. So
that makes a difference too. If everybody's kind of getting it, then you can just kind of flow. You still get like the out of shape guys showing up and, people dropping out. You get people, I'm not no names or anything, but you show up for your first day of training. I mean, is there people that show up and you're like, man, this guy doesn't get it. He just looks like a couch potato.
There's some people that like from the times that I've been there for the other classes' first weeks. Sometimes it's not even the fact that some people like show up and they're like not physically ready. It's just like there are other things. Like there was a group of guys. There's two brothers that were coming from Chicago while I was still down there, and class like they let you know that like, hey, class is 3 days a week. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you have to get 3 CrossFit workouts outside of class, and you have to like so yeah, basically you have to be like around in Iowa, and these guys were older gentlemen, and they were like, yeah, we live in Chicago, we're just gonna commute to 3 hours to class 3 days in a week. And I'm like, okay, so you're doing 6 hours in one day, 3 days in a row. That's not gonna work out. And I think maybe after like I think they maybe after the second week they had just kind of stopped showing up. And I was like, yeah, man, you put yourself in a bad spot by being like, oh yeah, we're just gonna commute 3 hours like every day, 3 days in a row, and then whatever other extra days we need to get into. Like that's no stuff like that where I'm like, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're putting yourself in a hole because there have been people that have showed up like not in the best shape, but they still like they stick through it and they end up in the best shape that they've been in after class. And those people, like I get real excited. Like, of course you're hard on them at first because like the first 2 weeks are like the hardest weeks, and so you get on them not because it's like, oh, you're out of shape, but you just get on them because like that's what you gotta do. Is like, hey, this is gonna be hard. Like it's gonna be a difficult time. So the first 2 weeks are always the hardest, and then like once you see people start to like progress and get and improve things, and then you see what like how they are afterwards, it's a world of difference.
Yeah, it's kind of satisfying. Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, don't come into pro wrestling and treat it as an afterthought. This is like serious. I don't
Right.
care what you see on TV. I don't care what kind of crazy comedy matches are on. This is serious business. Take it seriously. I was told by Brad Kohler, who was one of the first UFC MMA guys, was helping train me up in Minneapolis, and he said we've had Olympic caliber athletes flunk out of this because it's not just physically but mentally. It's a totally different
Right. It's a
aspect.
different ball game. Yeah. I trained for a whole year before like I got to like training. So like I my class was May 2017, and I think it was probably around May 26. Yeah, it was May like 2016 is when I had applied and like got accepted for the class a whole year in advance because I was like, I want to have a year's worth of time of me just going to work to save my money and like going to the gym to physically get ready, like to go into that. So that's literally what I spent the whole year doing, like my last year, because I'm from California. So before I moved, I spent the whole year saving money at my job, going to the gym literally 4 or 5 times a week, trying like figuring stuff out. Like that was the first time that I had like gone to the gym and I had my friend kind of start teaching me and showing me because before that it was just like I would go to the gym because of sports. So like I had played football growing up, so they'd be like, yeah, do these workouts and like whatever, and lift all the weight and stuff like that. My friend kind of helped me navigate more like in an actual gym and stuff. So that's what I spent that whole year doing, and so it was literally like work, gym, and I'd go home, and I would hang out with my friends as like my one big like goodbye type of deal. Is I would hang out with them as much as I can, and hang out with my family as much as I can. Because I was like, yeah, I'm moving from California to the middle of nowhere in Iowa/Illinois area, so like I'll do what I can. But that was what I applied a year in advance just so I can make sure I had all that like time for myself to get ready and situated.
Can you imagine if you would have showed up just, got accepted and showed up without physically preparing? And I imagine that whole year you're mentally preparing too
Yeah,
for,
so
for
like
what you don't even know what to expect, which is awesome.
yeah, like I tried to set myself up in terms of like I did like CrossFit for like 3 months while I was still living in California, but like I was losing so much money because I had a gym membership and I would do CrossFit and I was going to work. and like they were both on opposite sides of my town from where I was at. So if I wasn't making it to a CrossFit class on one side of town, I would go to the gym on the other side of town, and I was like, okay, CrossFit is costing me an extra $100 and something, and like I can only fit so many times going there because I have to like because they have their time frames for their classes. I'm like I can only get to so many classes when I work so often, but like my gym is 24/7, and that's not costing me nothing but $20, you know. So I was like, I'll just drop CrossFit for now because that's another $100 I can save. So I dropped it. But even that 3 months like gave me an idea of like, oh, this is what I need to prepare for, like when I get there, and like just how often I'm gonna be doing this type of, you know, deal and working out. But that whole year was like because I mentally it wasn't so much it was like that, and it was just because I gave myself the advantage because I'm an athlete or athlete, whatever we want to say. I grew up an athlete. I did sports. I don't know how
Okay,
people
there we
want to.
go.
Yeah, I did sports for most of my life, like a good part of my life. I've played just about every sport I can that involved anything. Like I've done jujitsu. I've done when I was young. I've done karate. An activity that I could do, I would do it. So I grew up with as that type of child. So going into another sport, I was like, yeah, no, this is like it's gonna suck in its own different way, but like because I want to do it, it's gonna be different, you know. So I was meant that's how I was meant to. It was like, yeah, this is the next sport, you know, that I'm getting myself into in that type of mindset. And so it made it, I mean, it made it easier. And plus, I wanted to wrestle. Like, I love wrestling. Like, I was like, wow, I'm finally getting to start, you know, taking steps towards my dream. So, like, I'm not going to just be like, oh, wow, the first day was hard or the first 2 weeks were hard. Like, I'm just going to leave because my body can't handle it. Like, nope, that was great. Like, I suffered the exact way that I thought I was going to, and I want to do it again. Like, I say all the time, I would absolutely go back in 2017 and do those 3 months all over again.
Now,
Like that
did you?
was
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's I
no,
got
no,
to
you're
go late.
good.
Did you make enough in that year, or to kind of survive 3 months in Iowa, or did you have to work once you got up here?
So I made enough to because I when we signed up, like me and my roommates, when we signed up for our apartment and we looked at how much it was going to be a month, and the apartments near the area were like, yeah, we do like a 3 month lease deal for the kids that come down and go to the school because they're like some of them are only here for the 3 months and then go back home. And so we had signed up for that. And so the way I had saved my money was like, okay, there's three of us. This is how much rent is approximately. Divide that, like split that between three people. And then essentially I was like, and then times it by three again, just because I need that amount of rent. So I get back home, or we get out there. Uh, the first 2 months, I was like solid, if I remember right. Yeah. I always forget if it was like the first 2 months or just like the first month, but I'm pretty sure it was like the first 2 months I was good. And then the third month when rent was starting to get due, is I was still having a bit of issues like getting a job, and so I was like, oh man, like I need the money, like I don't have a continuous income, and so then like maybe half a month, halfway through the second month, I got a job and then made enough money to pay for my rent the third month, and I was like, cool, I can relax now. So I worked through the rest of it and living out there and stuff like that. But yeah, I always make sure to keep like to have a job on hand or that I'm involved in, you know, just to keep myself as financially able to pay as much as I have to pay, you know. So
That's the deal. I'm gonna back up a little bit further, Chase. Um, you go to camp because you love pro wrestling, but I want to back up to when you're younger. Can you remember who you first saw on TV? Who made you fall in love with pro
yeah,
wrestling? Who
absolutely,
did you see?
yeah.
Who were you looking up to?
The so are we talking specifically like because the first person that I fell in love with is The Rock, and who will forever hold. But the funny thing is, I didn't see him in wrestling.
Okay.
So like I saw him in like movies and stuff and all that types of stuff, and so that's how like I kind of fell in love. Like I knew he was a wrestler, but my first like time seeing him wasn't in a wrestling ring. And but the only time I had actually got to see him because I didn't start watching wrestling until I was 13. But I had a friend who had like the old SmackDown versus Raw games when we were growing up, when we were like 8 years old or whatever. And so we would get on there, and I would always ask, like, hey, is The Rock on the game? That's the only person I know or care about. And then can we make our own people? And so that's all we cared about. And like I'd pick The Rock, or I would like we would make our own characters from like stuff that we liked watching as kids and cartoons that we liked watching as kids, and then do like Royal Rumbles and a bunch of stupid matches with these dumb characters that we put together. But like The Rock was the first person that I was like, oh yeah, he's so cool. The first person like in wrestling that I had related, even though it wasn't in wrestling that I saw him, but like I that was my dude. The first person like that was when it came to wrestling, it's a tie between John Cena and Matt Hardy. We're like John Cena, Matt Hardy, and Batista actually the top three dudes. I was like, these guys are just so cool for all different reasons. Like I would walk around the house and I would do the Matt Hardy version 1 hand sign all the time. Family had no idea what they knew. I watched wrestling, but they had no idea what was going on. They were just like, you just keep doing that. And I used to do the John Morrison like hands behind my head, like hip swivel. They thought that was my own thing, and I was like, no. So I
What's
was
wrong
having
with
a
our kid?
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walk around work sometimes now, and I'll just be like, this is basic nugonomics. And people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, man, they'd have no idea. They just think it's me. And I'm like, no, you got to know wrestling. And I'll just be hanging out, chilling. But John Cena, Matt Hardy, Batista were like the coolest dudes to me.
You know what I love to hear when people say, when I ask that question, when they come to me like you just did with authority, no hesitation, John Cena. I love it because a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's John Cena because, and I'm like, no, he was the best for the business. He still is.
Right.
Have you ever gotten a chance to meet John Cena?
I've not. I'm sure he's like a fantastic dude. Like he was the reason I put jean shorts on my character. Like my character was very simple, jean shorts, sneakers, and I'd be taped up to my elbows for no reason, just because I thought it was cool. But like I always loved like I've loved John Cena. There have been times where I don't love him as much, but I'm like, hey man, like I know you're the dude. Like I want to see other people too, you know. So it was like people were like, I hate John Cena. It's like I don't hate John Cena. I love the dude. Like he's great. Like when anytime he comes back, I get excited. I'm like, hell yeah, man! Like John Cena's back. It's just you want to see more different characters. It's like when you read a comic book, you can only read the same Superman for so long. Eventually, you're like, all right, well, I'm done with all these Superman comics. I want to read like a Green Lantern. I want to read, a Green Arrow, or like I want to, grab a Batman comic. So it's like you see the same character for so long. You're like, hey man, I want to see what else we got. Like we can't act like he's the only person, in the business. It's like you want to see more people. So I never hated him. Like people were like, oh, I hate John Cena. I'm like, no, I never hated him. I still love the dude. I just wanted to see more people. That's all. Like that's it.
Suffered from New England Patriots disease, I believe, because people were like, now I'm older, but when the Patriots first won that Super Bowl against the St. Louis Rams, who were the greatest show on turf, and they came out instead of individuals, they came out holding hands and were like team unity, and they beat them. And everybody was all about the Patriots, but now they keep winning. They keep winning.
Yeah.
And I hate the Patriots, and I'm like, I never really cared for the Patriots, but the more they won, the more I was like, how can you hate them?
Yeah.
Throw out the scandals or whatever, I know, but people are celebrating now.
That's just people trying to find stuff.
Yeah, like when Brady loses, even with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, people are celebrating. I'm like, dude, he's one of the greatest people to ever play the game. He does not care. He's been through it all. Same with Cena. He comes, the 5 moves of doom and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, and I was very lucky to meet him in Manhattan at the Sports Business Journal convention a few years back. I was working with the show on ESPN, and WWE happened to be one of the sponsors of the sports conference, and Cena's got an injury, so he shows up and gives a little speech, and he's up at the bar. This should be an interview about you, but I got to tell you this story because I think you'll appreciate it.
No, you're good.
He talks. He's in the hotel, and he goes, "I'll be over at the bar if you want to say hi." And I tell my boss, I said, "Let's go say hi to John Cena." Now he doesn't know anything about pro wrestling. He's impressed with the amount of people. So I just go up to Cena and start talking about my training and his. And of all things, I go, Dude, I love the album. The album that had come out, I played it over and over, and I know he was passionate about music and the samples. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna maybe think about releasing like a 10-year anniversary." And at the time, God, I can't remember what. Do you remember he was in a movie? It was a WWE films, and he played this older.
Was it the Marine?
No, it wasn't the Marine. It was one where he was an amateur wrestler who set all the records, and now he was living
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was he went back with his brother. I think it was called Legendary.
legendary. Yeah, because I said, dude, no matter where he put out in that trailer of that movie, and I think even in the movie, he had a hustle, loyalty, and respect, like rap, like song. And I'm like, dude, you got to put that out. And he goes, yeah, I guess I didn't realize it wasn't out. But whether he was kayfabing me, BSing me, or whatever, he was one of the nicest dudes that I ever met. And I'm like, I don't usually do this, but can I get a picture? He's like, yeah, of course, man. So I just love when people are like, because he who else would you put your belt on? That guy was going to
Yeah.
show up. He was going to say all the right things. Look at his Make-A-Wish things. I mean, he's just really somebody in our business to aspire to. That was my long rant on John Cena. So I love it when people say John Cena with authority. So now you train for 3 months. You go out the next week. Are you finding that even though your class of 6 got along really well, are you finding out as you go on and start taking these matches, are you starting to fill some gaps in where you're like, oh, we maybe covered this a little bit, but now are you learning little tricks of the trade as you go along?
So it's there's more things that I learned in terms of because even in training they told us they were like, hey, go to as many people as you can, or like if you go to another school after this, that's totally fine. Like don't think you're gonna like anything is wrong. Like you're always open to like learning. Like you're supposed to be learning. Like Seth that even said he was like to this day I still like I learn something new every day. Like you never are done learning in wrestling. And so I just kind of like would learn like our school covered a lot, and I would kind of see where they had pointed out a difference because they were like, hey, we teach things a little different and stuff like that. So like some people may not be at that speed or pace yet. This is just how we do things. And it's like you may realize that. And like there were parts where I was like, oh, somebody didn't learn this, but like I learned that like a month in. It's like, and this person's been training for this long, and like, and they just had like their second match or whatever, and I'm on my eighth match, and I graduated like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
and you're and it's like, oh wow, like I really just got to see what they meant was like, yeah, there's going to be a difference when you get out there because not everybody runs the same system that we run. And so that's just kind of what it was in terms of like meeting people and seeing people and being like, oh, this person's not like, I don't want to say like this person's not up to my level, but it was like this person learned at a different speed than I did because we
Yeah.
came up in 2 different systems. So we're just on 2 different programs. It'd be like taking kids from an advanced college system and being like, yeah, here's this high school freshman, do the same work. And it's like they haven't learned half the stuff that I've learned. Like that's unfair. And that's not like to put anybody down, but it's just people train in different programs and different systems and get taught different ways and different things that like you start to realize, oh, I learned this, but you learned this a different way, or you haven't learned it yet, or like stuff like that. So
Yeah, great analogy there, Chase. The other thing too is it's always nice, isn't it, when you find, hey, I can help somebody else out, like, hey, I
oh,
can teach you
absolutely.
this. I mean, how cool is that? So I remember
Yeah,
training
that's one of my
people.
favorite things. I love being able to like help out, and I coached my brother's like little. I helped coach my brother's like before I left his little league like baseball team or whatever. Just kind of like to hang out and help my dad out because he was like the head coach. He's like, hey, do you want an assistant coach? And I almost changed my major in college to kinesiology because I was like, I like coaching. I like being able to help and teach people. And I always tell my friends, I was like, hey, if you ever want me to watch anything, just hit me up. let me know. Like, I'll sit there and I'll watch it. I was like, I might watch it twice to make sure that I hit all my notes, and then like I'll send it to you. Like, if you ever need any feedback, like, and it's not like I'm not telling you like, oh, let me watch your match. It was like, hey, if you want to, I was like if for whatever reason you want to hear my opinion on like your match and what you did, then just hit me up. Like, I had this kid, Don't Die Miles, hit me up today, and he sent me the show from this past New Wave, and he didn't even say anything. He just sent it to me because I told him I watched his match from the New Wave before, and I was like, hey, I watched your match because I was watching for this other dude too, and you guys wrestled each other, so I took notes on both of you, and then I sent him his, and I was like, if you want yours, even though I know you didn't ask for it, like, I'm more than happy to give you feedback. And he was like, yeah, sure. And so I know he sent it to me today, and I was like, I'm gonna watch it either between today or tomorrow because I have all of tomorrow off. So I was like, you'll get it within like the next 24 hours for sure. It's like if people send me like, hey, I want you to watch this match, or can you watch this for me and like give me feedback, or you just give me what you think, and I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, it's not even limited to just matches. Like, hey, if you like are stuck on trying to figure out like what you want to do for your gear, or like how to like approach certain things, or like bookings and stuff like that, or like who to hit up, then yeah, just hit me up and I'll give you whatever information I can as best I can to help you. Like, that's all that wrestling and everything should be about, is like leaving everything a better place than where we found it. That's like in wrestling, and that's just in life and in the world, is like leave it a better place than like what you came into. So I try to preach that to people, and I try to like let people know, like, hey, if you want me to watch, I'll watch it. Like, don't even think twice. Just like, hey, can you watch this? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's so refreshing to hear that, because I'll get a few people very far and few in between that might send me a promo. Like, hey, I'm trying out for this and that. And I do believe in the same thing, leaving it better. I had a conversation last night. An opportunity had presented itself with some certain people, and I had a guy kind of bad mouthing myself and other people. And I said, I tell you what, even though it's going to help this guy out, I will help you out. Because I'm gonna step up and be the bigger person. So we professional wrestlers, I know we're just like human beings in the real world. We've got the jerks, we got the good ones, but it's for most of it, we've got plenty of good ones. Is the sun going down there, or did you lose power, or what's going on? All of a
Yeah,
sudden,
the sun. I was like, oh man, the sun started going down. I didn't even realize it, but I can definitely fix that. I'm so sorry.
that's all right. Well, I'll talk to the people while you fix the light here or something, just
Yeah.
because I feel like, man, that's the moneymaker right there. If somebody turns this interview on midway, they're gonna think that it was some type of witness protection thing I was doing here as a concern.
Yeah.
I just
Gotta
watched
distort my voice next.
yeah, that's what I just see the room getting darker and darker. So yeah,
Yeah,
see if you
man, with daylight savings, it happens so quick. Yeah, I can definitely fix that. Give me
yeah,
one
go
second. I'm so
ahead.
sorry.
I will remind people while you're
Awesome.
doing that you are watching the lockdown sessions with Wrestling Travel. We're with Chase Holliday. He is a graduate of the Black and Brave camp out of Iowa, which is run by Seth Rollins and Merrick Brave, hence the Black and Brave. And you know that Seth was formerly known as Tyler Blade. There he is, live and
Yeah,
in
we're
color.
back.
There we go. All right. So
Shout out
now,
to Danny for whatever edits he also throws in.
yeah, you know what? Danny won't even edit this because I did an interview with a guy last night. Funny story. I got a show coming up Saturday, and originally the Beer City Bruiser was going to be on it, and he was going to be going against this kid that's been about a year and a half, big dude. But as you know, with the pandemic, Ring of Honor, I think, is handling it great, taking care of all their guys. But they had kind of said, hey,
Right.
let's not do any indie shows right now because
Right.
of what happened near you right now, like Indianapolis with the Collective, we're all of a sudden out of that
Right.
show. So I said, let's just play it safe. So BCB says, hey, I can't show up. But the kid, I was supposed to do an interview with Del Wilkes last night, the Patriot, the trooper in the AWA. So I said, I got on our workers page. Anybody want to do one? We'll put over the show. Well, he starts calling out Beer City Bruiser in the
Oh
middle of the
man.
night, kind of in character. And I'm like, okay. But then he goes, yeah, well, I don't know if he's ducking me or if Ring of Honor is afraid of me. The kid's in the business for a year and a half. And I'm going, okay. So afterwards, I get on the phone and I message Bruiser and I said, hey, dude, usually not a big deal, but I know how careful Ring of Honor is being. I go, he kind of called you out. And, said, I don't know if I want to air it. And anyway, point is, and he goes, yeah, just don't, because we're just being safe and can't really do anything with an angle anyway. So I asked Danny, I said, do you think we can edit that out? And he goes, it might be beyond our technology skills. So we just kind of keep it, we just play it like it's in the ring. So, because I know when I first started out, I was doing these via Skype instead of Zoom. And thank goodness that the guy got Zoom so I can have a background like this. But meanwhile, that was enough behind the scenes. What, now you've been wrestling now for 3 years. What do you have you been in with some names, some people you've seen on TV? That's always kind of the cool thing, because even with me, when you start seeing names, when I first saw King Kong Bundy on a show, and I was like, well, kind of shitting myself.
Was it the 20? It might have been the 21st or the 22nd IWA Mid South anniversary. Was the first time. I can't remember if it was that or if it was at SCW in Iowa, whichever one came first. No, yeah, it was IWA Mid South. I think the SCW was in the same year, just later on in the year. But Billy Gunn was the first person that I had ran into that had been on TV, and I seeing him. What had got me, it wasn't just the fact that I was like, oh, it wasn't like, oh, it's Billy Gunn. It was like, wow, this dude is a lot bigger than what he looks on TV.
I was gonna say, he's huge.
Still,
he's so tall.
Yeah, like I know people are like, yeah, he's like 6'4", whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I played football. I know what 6'4" looks like. It's not that impressive. Like I'm used to it, but just this man is 6'4" and in great shape at however old he is, and it's like, wow, that's a whole different, like that's a full-grown man in front of me. Like that's insane. But yeah, he was the first person since getting into wrestling that I had met that was on TV, and he was real cool. He was real chill. He seemed to have kind of like kept to himself. Again, this is like at IWA and where it was Memphis, Indiana, in this little flea market. So he was just there to do what he was gonna do. So
I couldn't believe when I first saw him how tall he was.
Yeah,
because I have no, freaking huge.
Yeah, I think the next person after that was Joey Mercury because I did a Joey Mercury seminar, and he was real cool. And who else have I met? I've met people that have been on Impact. Like I've met Sammy Callahan, Rich Swan, who's one of my favorites. Like I call him Uncle Rich. Me and the rest of the Lost Boys, Uncle Rich and Aunt Sue Young is what we call him. But yeah, I've met a handful of people. It's like I don't really keep track just because after training with Seth, it's like there's not a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, like this person was in the WWE, and because it's like, oh, I trained with Seth Rollins, like that's at the time that I was training, and like still to this day he's like one of the best wrestlers. It was at the top of the mountain, so it's like, oh, you just kind of like you get starstruck, but like not as much really. So now the people that like really get me are people that I'm just big fans of. So like ACH, Eddie Kingston, even though I've shared plenty of locker rooms with him, Eddie Kingston always gets me because he's one of my favorites. So anytime I'm in a locker room or I get to see ACH, I always it's always, to me, it always blows my mind. Like I was probably the first person that genuinely was like, oh shoot, like I want to go say hi, but like I'm also nervous. Like that's ACH is one of my heroes, so like seeing him, I'm always like, oh man, that's crazy. Like ACH is here.
I was just on a podcast this morning, our own podcast, by the way, but we're talking about Eddie Kingston and John Moxley, and I said, I didn't get a chance to watch that pay-per-view. Well, what I did get to see was, and I've seen Eddie wrestle live a few times, but the promo that he cut in the locker room after that match, like just the realism and the passion and everything that he puts into his promos, my hat is way off to Eddie Kingston, and He's been in the sport forever, and I sure hope that, he does get, I love seeing him getting the recognition now that he deserves, but I think he deserves more, just
Oh,
for what he
absolutely.
brings to the table.
Yeah,
The reason
he
why,
really is the last of a dying breed. So
yeah, and the reason why I asked that question is not to go, hey, who are you starstruck by, but I want to go, who have you been in the ring with? But this is a dangerous question because I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to leave people off the list, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be like asking a father who his favorite kid is. But do you have a few names amongst the long list that I know that it is, so nobody gets offended? But there are a few names that would pop out of your head right now in this moment that I put you on the spot that you're like, you know what? These are somebody I'd like to step in the ring with before it's all said and done.
yeah, absolutely. ACH, Fred Yehi, Eddie Kingston. Uh, who else? I can do. I want to say Shingo Takagi is one of them. Uh, Daniel Bryan, Peter Dunne. Uh, it's funny. Me and my friends we always say Peter Dunne because a little like an inside joke between us. But I know I see him like Pete Dunne. Yeah, Pete Dunne. Well, there's always so many people. Daniel Bryan. I'd love to wrestle Seth. Uh, Shane Hollister. Yeah, yeah. There's a long list. Like as you said, so like, but anytime I get asked anything, and they're always people are like, oh, who do you want to wrestle? Or like, if we got to pick, who would it be? I was like, it's always ACH, Freddie Ahai, and Eddie Kingston are my top three. I said Eddie Kingston signed, so I don't know how likely that's going to be for a while. I know their roster is allowed to do some indie dates, but I don't know what his deal is. ACH my hero, and then once I found Freddie Ahai, once I was really starting to get into indie wrestling, I was that dude's it. Like he needs why isn't he everywhere? Like he's so cool. Like why he's so smart. And then I got into like wrestling and I understood even more so. And I was like, why isn't Freddie everywhere? Like I want to wrestle him. Like that's the dude.
He's crisp, isn't he? He's so
Yeah.
crisp in the ring. Was it not, man? Pardon me if I'm wrong, but AAW, wasn't it a couple weeks ago or a month ago that I think it was ACH and EI on Fight
Yeah.
TV? I watched that match
Yeah.
and I was like, Fred's a name that I hear, but I haven't really. I like to think I know everybody and watch everybody, but it was first time where I'm sitting down focusing on this match, and it was awesome.
Right. Yeah. No, he's an incredible time. That's the second time they've wrestled at AAW. So I don't know if they're gonna be having a long story to tell, but I sure hope so because both those guys they're something different.
Yeah, it was incredible matchups, and yeah, that's I'm excited. They're on tonight as we film this. I think they're on tonight on Fight
Oh
TV.
yeah,
So
they are.
I'm hoping
Everybody
that.
go watch AEW.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even know any of the matches, but I just know that.
Yeah, I know. I know there's Ace Perry versus Braden Lee. I know there's Myron versus Trey Lamar. I know there is. Uh, who else? I know there's Stephen Wolf versus Trey Miguel. I'm trying to
let
think
me
who
let me
else.
ask you this. Let's be topical. And as I interrupt you, what do you
Yeah, go
now?
for it.
Warrior Wrestling in Chicago is the place where I first really got to see. I was talking about the Rascals, and if you get to see the Rascals
Mm-hmm.
on TV on Impact, they're great. I love them. But if you get to see the Rascals at an independent show, that's a totally different story. They're kicking ass and pulling out all the stops. What do the rumor is that they're going to leave Impact and go to WWE. Now, I don't know how much I trust the rumors, but what are Trey Miguel, Desmond Xavier, and Zachary Wentz? What are your thoughts? Would they? Because I said, here's what I said. I wish them all the financial success in the world if they go to
Mm-hmm.
WWE, but I almost wish they would go with like an AEW or someplace where they can still have financial but still wrestle on the indies because those guys are bringing a lot to the table. I don't know how much you watch the
Right.
Rascals. Wow.
No, it's funny because I've shared locker rooms with Zach and Trey the most, and then also people seem to forget that Myron is or was a Rascal as well. And Myron's probably the one that I'm the closest with because I see him the most because he wrestles all the indie dates. Uh, but Trey, I've shared plenty of locker rooms with, and he's one that like I always can go to and like say what's up to. Like he's always the first one. I'm like, oh hey, what's up, man? Like I kind of know Zach. And then Dez is probably the one that I've interacted with the least, just because we haven't been around each other like that. But Trey, like we've shared locker rooms at IWA, and like because he was also there at a weekly basis at some point. So like, so I was like, hey man, how you doing? Like, what's up? Whatever, whatever. And I'll never forget. There's one thing that he had told me when I was real young. He was like, yeah man, sometimes you just gotta go. You gotta go broke for the business. And so that was one thing that I always remember. It was like, yeah, if I want to make it, he's like, sometimes you got to make it. You just got to go broke for it. And that's like one thing that I forever remember. Like, that's probably, I've never told him that personally, that piece of information has always stuck with me. But he's absolutely like one of my favorite people. I love seeing him succeed and do what he gets to do. So I haven't heard any of the WWE rumors. I saw that they were leaving. I'm like, whatever they're doing, best of luck to them. I love them all. They're all great. They're all fantastic. They all bring something to the table, in their own way. So I want them all to succeed.
Yeah, man, and same. I echo that. Somebody just said that there's rumors on Twitter that they were going to WWE, and I said, well, I'll hold until I see it. I just wish them all the best. But Myron
Yeah.
Reed, another guy that I just discovered probably within the last 6 months, a guy who brings it. And then another guy that I didn't discover, but was thrown on me is, and I seen him wrestle on indies a lot, and obviously on Impact. But man, can Chris Bay bring it or what?
Oh yeah, he's definitely. I've never ran into him before because he's from the West Coast, but like he would come up like on my feed every now and then, like on my social medias and whatnot, just because clips and stuff like that. Like that's how you see most people nowadays. But he's definitely like he is what everybody says he is. So
And, when I met him with Wrestling Travel, he's always cool.
right,
Because now I go from wrestler to I'm sticking a camera in your face. I'm asking first, of course. So, but he's
yeah,
always been cool with me. And some people aren't because you
right.
get that podcast mentality, which I get. I've been at shows where people just, hey, we're gonna stick something in your face, and it's like easy. Let me ask you this now: we're in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Keep thinking we're gonna come out of a pandemic, but we keep kind of
Right.
going back in. When I started the lockdown sessions, it was trying to find out what people were up to during the lockdown, which I'm comfortably calling the lockdown in this pandemic for us in the States kind of starting the end of February. And the reason why I give it
Mm-hmm.
that date is because I was up in Canada going, shit, I better see if I can get on an earlier flight because the news was going crazy. I don't want to get
Right.
stuck in quarantine. What, right around March, before March, when was your last match and how long were you off or away from wrestling during this pandemic before you got back in?
Oh, my last match before because I had a match in March, if I remember. It was March and February. I can actually pull it up because I have a spreadsheet of my matches and when I wrestled them.
Smart.
Let's see. And because of the pandemic, it's not like I have to go far into my 2020. So let's see. When was that? Actually, my last match was in February. It was the uh, 15th, so the day after Valentine's Day. Yeah, the 15th of February. And then I got booked for the March show, but then shut down. So, and then once the pandemic had hit, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't stressed or anything really. Like a lot of people were freaking out, and some people in general rightfully so. I just try to keep my calm as best I can. But once everything happened, I was like, cool, like everything will be fine. We'll we'll get through this. We'll handle it. Everything will be okay. Like the world is not ending. It's not over. Stuff is just being postponed, put on hold. No big deal. So it's like this just gives my body time to rest, relax, figure some stuff out. Like what do I want to do next? What do I want to create? So it was really just a big think tank for me. And once the gyms opened up, I was like, cool, I can go back to the gym. All I have to worry about is going to work and going to the gym. Like, I don't have to worry about spending excess money on gas, getting to what show, hitting up this person for a booking, hitting up this person. Everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. Like, everything will happen with time. Like, so that's just kind of like how I was and how I went about it. I was like, yo, it's not the end. You know, things are gonna keep on going. It's like you're gonna keep waking up the next day. Just keep doing what you can. Keep living your best at, you know, within the restrictions that we're allowed. You know, where everything will go back eventually. There's no point in rushing anything. Everything, you know, there's timing for everything. Everything happens for a reason. So just let it, you know, let it flow. I always tell people, you know, life itself is like a big ocean, you know, and we're all obviously swimming in this big ocean. Now, when there, you can like fight against the current and you can drown and, you know, freak out, or you can just chill out, stay afloat, go with the flow, and see where it takes you. You know, if you try to control too much of stuff that you can't control, you don't know where you're gonna end up. So
That's a
like,
great
there's no point.
analogy, Chase. Yeah, that's really good. For a minute there, I was afraid you were going to go Forrest Gump on me.
No,
And
no.
so February 15th, if you look on your spreadsheet, when's the next match?
The next match is, I believe it is actually in July. Yeah, yeah, July 11th was in Salem, Indiana, in the ladder match for Pawcade for Paradigm Pro Wrestling. So
Okay, I've heard of them. I haven't heard that name in a long time. What so what did you do? You obviously your job was essential. You didn't lose your day job, for lack
right,
of a better term, which is great because a lot of people. But did you and you couldn't go to the gym? Were you like you said, you using that time to kind of physically heal and mentally heal, or did you get yourself? Were you watching tapes? Were you getting on the network? Were you on YouTube? Were you getting
yeah,
that wrestling itch?
that's kind of what it was like. Like I didn't really get the like I so I get the itch more because like I go home to California like once a year to kind of like that's my end of the year. Like wrestling as a job, and you get your, you know, your time off. My time off is the 2 weeks at the end of the year at Christmas, when I don't worry about going to the gym. I don't worry about going to work. I don't worry about, you know, wrestling. I'm like, I have 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks back home. I'm doing nothing, and then I come back. Like if I work 300, you know, whatever days out of the year, I can get those last 14 days off. You know, so during that time, it was just kind of like I watched a lot of YouTube, and but it was all for like different reasons. So I watched a lot of like old Japan YouTube. So I was watching the Four Pillars go at it. I was watching a lot of like bodybuilder stuff because it was like, oh, bodybuilders fat like clean fast food, or like this is what they eat in a day, and this is what they eat for breakfast, or this is what they eat for dinner, or like uh, all that types of stuff. And it would be like, what else was there? It would just be like home workouts and stuff like that. Yeah, it was like old Japan, bodybuilding stuff. I watched a lot like the UFC embedded stuff whenever I could. Uh, like just all stuff like that is really what I was just like, oh, I'll just watch this. Like I would just be in bed or like be in the living room or in the kitchen. I would just be looking at my phone, watching stuff like that. I'm like, oh, take notes. I was like, oh, I can do this in the gym, or I can work on this, or like let me put together this recipe and put together this recipe so I can try that at some time or try that at some time. And like, oh, well, this has worked for me in the past, or I can try this now. Or like, oh, clean fast food. Okay, let me remember to order this, or like do this, or whatever, whatever. So that's kind of like what I spend most of my time doing. Was just like, oh, old Japan wrestling, oh, old ROH. It's like it was because they were dropping like, oh, the three amazing like Daniel Bryan matches, or three brutal Samoa Joe matches, or like stuff like that. And I was like, oh, well, let me watch these and da 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 da. So that's kind of like that's just basically what I was doing the whole time. So
You know, Chase, we haven't met before, but you're so positive. I can just tell, like, you're taking, most people were all upset during this, but it's almost like for you, and I'm not, obviously there's probably ups and downs, but you're like, you know what, let's just take advantage of this time off. I'm going to learn what to eat. I'm going to learn some new stuff. That's cool, man. That's really cool to hear, dude.
thank you, I
When,
appreciate that.
when's your next match?
It was in December. It was Paradigm Pro Wrestling's Regulate, which they were going to double head with Unsanctioned, which was going to be December 11th. But because Indiana is starting their shutdown again on this upcoming Sunday, all shows essentially have been postponed within our area. So that's just more time for me to kind of like chill, relax, continue to go to my gym as long as it's open, uh, get right in that terms, stack up a little bit of more money as best I can, because you can never have too much money, and that's that's basically what I'm going to be focusing and working on, and just thinking about what I can. I'm starting to work on. I've been thinking about content, working on getting a merch page set up. I have a friend who's working on getting just a website for me set up. So I still have some projects and things that I'm kind of working on to put together. I'm hoping to get a merch page set up, hopefully either within December or going into the new year, something like that. But I got plenty of ideas of how I want to go about stuff, so I'm just going to try to manifest them as best as I can during this time where I don't have to worry about going to a show as much. Not saying I don't want to wrestle, because I absolutely love wrestling, but I know, you know, it'll come back to me and I'll come back to it, and there's no hurry. You don't want to rush a good thing, so when you get to do it, you appreciate it that much more, and you make it mean that much more whenever you get in the ring. So that's just kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I'm going to give you a homework assignment.
Go for it.
So, unless you already know about this, good friend of Wrestling Travel and good friend of the show up in Canada, Tyson Dukes, has his YouTube channel going, and he has his Hammerlock podcast. And I can imagine a guy like you, what he's doing a lot of old school techniques and teaching, almost like what I say when I was talking about training, the little things that get lost in time and through the cracks, all these little different techniques, all kinds of cool stuff that if I was a really active wrestler, all kinds of stuff to put in your toolbox. So Tyson Dukes, super cool dude. If you haven't watched, and he breaks down matches on his podcast and stuff. He does all kinds of cool stuff. So if you haven't already, that's my homework assignment I can give you, because the guy knows his stuff and he's sharing it with the world for free right now, which is a super cool thing for Tyson to do. So Tyson, if you're watching this, buddy, I love it, and I always try to push that as much as I can to people. Usually it's off air, but while we're on it. So couple more questions for you, because I want to be respectful of your time as the sun goes down here too. What would be, besides that Trey Miguel answer has got me thinking, besides what Trey said to you, what are some of the best pieces of advice that you've received thus far in your young career?
It's funny. There's one that we got from Uncle Rich, where it was like we were in the car, and like we were obviously just joking around and stuff like that. But it's also like a bit of a reminder where he had told me and one of my fellow Lost Boys, Bradley Prescott the fourth, and he was like, we were just talking about like how we like to do stuff to get like for our own amusement. Like we're like, yeah, we'll go here, like we'll hang out and we'll do stuff. Like we'll talk about it in the back, like, hey, I bet you won't do this, or like we should do this, like just because we'll enjoy it, you know. And so he was like, yeah, man, you pop the boys, you pop the fans. And so we kind of like always say that, whether like jokingly and like for real. It's like, yeah, it's like you think about it, it's like as the fans can tell when you're having fun and like when you're enjoying it. So even if you're doing stuff just for like for you to react, even if it's like one small thing or like you sell something a certain way, like if the fans can tell that you're having fun, like then they start having fun, because that energy is infectious. So like if you start doing stuff because you're like, yeah, this is like I'm looking forward to doing this dumb thing or doing this cool thing with my friends. So like they're gonna be able to tell, because I'm gonna get really excited for it, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, and then the fans will get excited for it. So like something like that's also good. Like always people telling you, bet on yourself, do what makes you happy, essentially. Like that's for life too in general. Is like do what makes you happy, but especially in wrestling, because so many people are like, I don't know what I want to do, or I want to do this, but I'm not entirely sure. Like it's like, no, do what you want to do. Don't let anybody dictate like how you should wrestle, how you should dress, how you should look in life or in wrestling. Like do what makes you happy, and do what is going to be best for you, even if it's like something that makes you happy, but like you're not satisfied with like the outcome of determining on how you want your like career and how you want it to be presented. Like just keep doing stuff that makes you happy until you find like what works for you and makes you happy at the same time. So stuff like that is always, kind of sticks with me, and that I always make sure to teach on those after me. So
Fantastic. Like I said, I love the positivity. I feel like
hey,
next time I'm having a bad day, I'm just going to give you a call, Chase, and
hey, go for it.
you're going to talk me through it. So my final question is my most important question for everybody watching. Where can you drop your social media handles? Where can the fans follow you? If you have a merch for sale, how can we support Chase Holliday? Until that next time you get to the show, but can you drop everything where the fans can kind of keep track of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I tried to not be a hard man to find. I try to be super easy to find. So you can just find me on Twitter, and my Instagram are literally the same tag. It is Chase Holiday X. So it's Chase Holiday, HOLLIDAY X. Again, Twitter and my Instagram. I'm working on getting a merch site set up. So once that is done and set up and all put together the way that I would like it to be, I will definitely make sure people know. I'm trying to present it in a different way other than me just putting out like, oh yeah, here's a link, click on it and buy my stuff. Like I'm trying to find a different way to present it and how to go about it to get people more excited for it. So follow my Twitter for that, because that's probably where I'm the most active and give updates and such, because that's where a lot of people, it's easier to interact on Twitter than it is anything else. And like I really just kind of use Twitter to talk to my friends and interact with people. So follow me on Twitter for that. Follow my Instagram. I post pictures every now and then, make me look cool. Uh, yeah, I'm working on the merch site. You can also, if you just want to hear me and my friends play games, I am on a YouTube channel called Glitch Buddies, which is me, the Glitch Kai Faden, and Percy Davis, and we kind of just play through various games and just kind of sit there and commentate and go back and forth and BS with each other the whole time while we're playing games. So if you want to see us act like a bunch of fools and listen to us just be stupid for however long the episode is, go ahead, Glitch Buddies YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and hit the little bell notification. I'm on an episode of my good friend Sean Kemp's YouTube channel called Mutts Putts, where he takes wrestlers golfing and interviews them while golfing. And so, yeah, it's called Mutts Putts, MUTTPUTT. Yeah, same for that. Hit the like, subscribe, little bell notification for him as well. But that's where all you can find me.
Now I know I said it's the last question, but you mentioned gaming, and to be topical, I gotta find out, PS5 or the new Xbox?
Oh man. Okay, so I've always been an Xbox guy. I have an Xbox One, and then my roommate Glitch, he's the one that's like his channel, so we play on his PS4 in the living room all the time, and that's how we record everything. So after recording for so often, especially in the downtime of like during the downtime of the lockdown, we would be recording during the weekends a bunch to bust out episodes so we could be in advance, because we'll record them and then he'll edit them and then he'll post them. There's a new one maybe 3 days out of the week of a different game that we're playing. And so after playing on the PS4 for so long, I'm like, man, this PS4 is nice. I'm just so used to it now, because I'm sitting here playing games all the time on a PS4. I'm used to the controller. So now at this point, I'm like, if I can get a PS5, that'd be cool, man. If not, I'm cool with the Xbox One, but I think I'm leaning more of the PS5. Plus, they got the Spider-Man game, and Miles Morales is my favorite Spider-Man. I said, all right, I guess it's meant to be eventually. So I'm gonna get that PS5 one way or the other.
That's great. Yeah, I can't play Xbox. My hands don't move. I'm so used to that PlayStation controller that's been around forever. So I actually just go old school Nintendo now, because it's only 2 buttons, and
I love me a good GameCube.
GameCube. Oh, dude, GameCube's got some cool games, doesn't
That
it?
was my first big system. The first the first game system I ever actually had was a Game Boy Advance SP, and then I got a GameCube, and so GameCube forever has my heart.
Yeah, man, the Super Smash Brothers, Luigi's Mansion,
Yeah.
Paper Mario. I think, what was it called, man? I've got the WWE F Games at that time. I forgot there was a. Well, whatever. I'm rambling on. What's your favorite wrestling game?
It's probably gonna have to be the first one that I ever played, which I believe was SmackDown vs. Raw 2000. I think it was 2009.
Awesome. Did we freeze up here at the end? Are you kidding me? No, we didn't.
I was gonna say, I was like, I'll say it again.
Yeah, no, we froze up. We came back. So, Chase Holliday, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us on the lockdown session. Truly awesome. The cool thing about doing the first lockdown session is a few months down the road, we get to do a second lockdown session if you're interested, and then it becomes, we got all the how I got into wrestling out of the way, and then we can just kind of talk turkey. So
Yeah,
I wish you all the
absolutely.
best, and
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. So please follow at Chase Holliday X. Follow him on
Yes, sir.
Twitter. Follow him on Instagram. Tell him to get a TikTok and all that stuff. So, Chase, you have a great day. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, you as well.